Já pintou verão, calor no coração, a festa vai começar. Salvador se agita numa só alegria, eternos Dodô e Osmar. Na Avenida 7, na Paz eu sou tiete, na Barra o farol a brilhar. Carnaval na Bahia, oitava maravilha, nunca irei te deixar, meu amor. Eu vou atrás do trio elétrico, vou dançar ao negro toque do agogô, curtindo minha baianidade na go. Eu queria que essa fantasia fosse eterna. Quem sabe um dia a paz vence a guerra e viver será só festejar. Já pintou verão, calor no coração, a festa vai começar. Carnaval na Bahia, oitava maravilha, nunca irei te deixar, meu amor. Eu vou atrás do trio elétrico, vou dançar ao negro toque do agogô, curtindo minha baianidade na go. Eu queria que...
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We are already in the last day, things that are good and fast. And we have now the pleasure of introducing you our last and closing keynote speaker. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce you Stephen Penneck. Stephen is the president of the International Statistical Institute and Honorary Officer of the Official Statistics at the Royal Statistical Society, where he is a fellow and a Chartered Statistician. Stephen retired in 2012 as a Director General at the UK's Office of National Statistics, following a career in official statistics. Since retirement, Stephen has published articles and given lectures on a range of topics in official statistics, including economic statistics, open data and governance, trust and ethics. He has contributed to the ISI workshops and regional conferences in Korea, Cameroon, Malaysia, and Tunisia, and has organized sessions at recent conferences of IAOS and at the World Statistics Congress. Stephen, it is a great pleasure and honor to introduce you and to have you as the closing speaker for this third conference on statistics and data science. And I would like, on the behalf of the local and scientific committees, to thank you, and it is really a pleasure for us. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Well, thank you, Paolo, for that very fulsome introduction. And thank you also for inviting me to address you at this important conference on statistics and data science. Now, I'm just going to try to share my screen so that you'll see my presentation. Let me see if I can do that relatively quickly. Okay. Right, so you should be able to see that now, hopefully.
Yes, we can see it now.
Thanks. I note that your first two conferences were.
If you can make it full screen, maybe it is easier for the people.
It's full screen on my screen.
Okay.
What can I do? Shall I try again?
Maybe you can try, because we are seeing the small slides on the left.
Okay, I'm not sure what I can do. Can you see it now? No?
It's not here yet.
Let me try again.
I think you can either share the full. Let me see how it is now.
Can you see that now?
The suggestion from one of our colleagues is to because we still see the without full screen, is to either to share the full screen or to share to put your presentation on full screen. Click on Alt tab and then share the presentation. So if you can put your slides on full screen, you do Alt tab, you come back to StreamYard, and then you share the presentation. I think that will work.
Okay, sorry about this.
No problem.
So I go to the presentation and I do Alt tab, yeah?
Yes, so that you come back here.
Okay, does it work now? And now we share it.
What? Yes.
I don't know that's any better, is it?
I think it's similar, but maybe we can continue like this, because it is not that small. It's just that we see your slides on the left-hand side.
Yeah. Well, if anybody, I'm sorry, I'm not used to working on this platform, and
no problem.
If somebody can help me with this, I did send you the slides, Paolo, about an hour ago.
Yes.
So if anybody can help me, in the meantime,
yes,
I would just carry on. Okay.
Okay. I think we can continue like that.
Thanks very much. My apologies to those of you who are watching.
No.
You can't see the slides very clearly. Well, let me say that I note that your first two conferences were in Salvador, and no doubt had you been able to meet in person rather than virtually, you might have been there today. And I was going to show you this picture. My slides are not very visual, but I was very pleased to be able to visit Salvador after the World Statistics Congress 6 years ago in Rio, and I remember it well. It's a very beautiful city. Of course, face-to-face meetings give us the opportunity to meet up with colleagues, which is difficult to replicate virtually. But a virtual meeting does enable others to join the discussion who would not otherwise be able to do so. And I'm very pleased to be able to do this today, because obviously I couldn't have just come to Brazil for a morning to deliver this lecture. In this talk, I want to show how the current pandemic has highlighted the importance of statistical leadership and the opportunity this has given us to advance the profession. And I will set out what I mean by statistical leadership and how National Statistical Institutes, NSIs, need to show statistical leadership. I will also ask who needs to demonstrate statistical leadership, why leadership.
Stefan, let me interrupt you for a minute. I have just sent your slides to one of our colleagues. You will share them instead of you, because as they are stopped in a single position and they are not moving. So I think you will share the slides.
Shall I stop? I will stop sharing.
You can stop. So you will share them as soon as possible. But meanwhile you can.
Okay, right. Well, I hope the slides will catch me up.
Yes.
I will ask who needs to demonstrate statistical leadership, why it's needed at all levels of a statistical organization, and what makes a good statistical leader, why statisticians perhaps don't always make good leaders. I hope to explain how this can also be an issue in the academic world as well as for NSIs, and conclude with some thoughts on how we can grow statistical leadership. As you know, my background is in official statistics, and I worked in the UK's Office for National Statistics for around 40 years. But these ideas are not especially UK-centric. I've discussed them with Susan Lineker, who had similar experience in the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and she and I both had spells working in each other's offices. Also, I've discussed them with statisticians at Statistics Sweden. So we feel these questions are widely relevant internationally, and nor are they issues which are particular to national statistics offices. They have relevance to wherever statisticians need to lead, in research institutes, universities, or businesses. And those of you who teach statistics to students who go on to work in statistics may like to consider these issues in terms of the skills they need to develop. So can you move to the next slide, please, if you're, that's it, thank you. The current situation with the pandemic still taking its toll in most countries has highlighted the importance of good statistical evidence as the basis for decision making. And statisticians have risen to the challenge. Whether it's mapping the spread of infections, hospitalizations and mortality, measuring the impact of testing and the rate of vaccinations, modeling future scenarios to help decision makers, or monitoring the impact on human behavior and economies, there has been a need for data which is local, reliable and up to date. Statisticians have shown the value to society of what we do. COVID-19 has provided statisticians with one of our biggest challenges. Never before have statistics been in the spotlight so much. As an official statistician, I'm enormously proud of how national statistics offices have come forward and contributed. They have developed new data collections, produced early estimates, new analyses, and developed data modeling capacities, all at speed and to demanding user requirements. New surveys that would have taken a couple of years to develop have been up and running in weeks. The can-do approach has been noticed and valued. Statisticians have been listened to by decision makers. But there is a gain here for us to take for the profession. We need to build on the experience we gain from this as we continue to develop approaches that can rapidly meet future statistical needs. Could you move on to the next slide, please? Thanks. Our leadership role is key here. Statisticians are more trusted than politicians to present the facts. We have a public duty to ensure that a balanced picture of the impact of the pandemic is presented using the best possible data. More than that, the current emergency requires statistics on a wide range of topics to be brought together. Some governments are encouraging people to stay at home. In some countries, schools, offices, shops and businesses have been forced to close to avoid the risk of spreading infection. Yet this has had an impact on children's education, the economy and employment, which we as statisticians are measuring. Governments have faced very difficult trade-offs. The higher priority a government gives to public health objectives to reduce the spread of infection, the worse the impact is on the economy and education for young people. The more a government attempts to revive the economy, the higher the risk of infection recurring. Are these priorities competing? What is the balance between public health and economic objectives? Statisticians have a leadership role here through their study of well-being. Well-being brings together all the impacts on human condition and provides a framework within which they can be balanced. Finally, I would say on this topic of the current pandemic, statisticians are part of an international community where ideas can be shared quickly and nations can learn from each other. The International Association for Official Statistics has already published a special edition of its journal on official statistics during the pandemic. So how do we build on this for the future? Good statistical leadership will ensure that these challenges have a lasting impact, changing the way a National Statistics Institute operates enabling the rapid development of statistical systems which change the way we develop new statistics. There are new challenges to be faced. How do governments ensure that the economic recovery is felt equally in all parts of the country? How can recovery be managed in a way that is carbon neutral rather than contributing to climate change? New statistics are needed to inform these challenges, and that requires statistical leadership. So next slide, please, if you would. So what is statistical leadership? So let's start by defining the term. Statistical leadership suggests two components, statistics and leadership. Statistics is a profession. This will be familiar to you. It has a set of knowledge and skills and a set of values. We learn the knowledge through study and skills through practice and experience. Knowledge and skills are needed to collect and summarize data to provide insight, which is what statisticians do. We probably absorb values from more experienced colleagues, from experience of particular issues, and from seeing the values written down in policy statements. A statistician's values are based on integrity, trust, and objectivity, often set down in codes of practice. So, for example, see the ISI's shared professional values, which is on our website. To be a member of ISI, you have to subscribe to these values, and there's three of them: respecting the privacy of others and the promise of confidentiality given to them; professionalism, which implies responsibility, competence, expertise, and judgment; understanding user needs, using fit-for-purpose methods, and committing to continuous learning, for example; truthfulness and integrity, which means independence, producing results using our science and not being influenced by funders or politicians; and objectivity and transparency in all that we do. Can I have the next slide, please? So the statistical part of leadership should be clear, but what do we mean by leadership? It's an important question to ask at the beginning because leadership and management often get intertwined and confused. And of course, senior professionals need to be able to lead and to manage. Leading is about setting a clear direction, having a vision and communicating it. It means getting people to follow you by inspiring them, convincing them of its necessity and benefits, but also supporting them on the journey towards it. Not just the people who work for you, but also key stakeholders, your customers and your funders. The vision needs to be articulated so that stakeholders can see its benefits. Those who help deliver it need to be helped to identify and overcome hurdles. They need to know what it means for them. To be a leader, you need to have followers. The vision may advance strategic solutions for an organization which may be suboptimal for some parts of it. So there needs to be an understanding of the wider benefits. All of this requires a leader to have excellent communication skills. Leaders work through a strategic plan which articulates their vision and sets out the priorities and objectives needed to achieve it. Compared with that, managing is about marshalling and deploying resources, which might be budgets or people. The manager allocates resources in the best way to meet objectives and monitors progress towards goals. The manager will work within the framework set down in the strategic plan, developing and delivering these objectives. It's said that management is about getting work done well, while leadership is about getting work done better. Much of this, I think, will be familiar to many of you. Most senior people are both leaders and managers, but it's helpful for them to understand the difference because leadership often gets crowded out by management. And this looks like leadership is only something that's needed at the top level, but as I shall argue later, leadership is needed at all levels of an organization. So the next slide, please. So let me now turn to discussing how statistical organizations show leadership. In the UK, we have a body called the Office for Statistics Regulation, the OSR. This sits apart from the official producers of statistics and holds them to account, mainly by checking that they conform to the UK Code of Practice for Statistics. But it also looks at issues of general concern. And in a recent report, the OSR makes the case for strong statistical leadership by governments and by statistical offices. This is to ensure the right data and analysis exist to support decision making and to support public confidence in statistics. This is about statistical organizations having a clear public voice, being prepared to enter into public debate on issues where statistics and data have a clear role to play. And the COVID pandemic has been one such issue. Of course, much of the leadership of NSIs take place within government and is not always obvious to outsiders. Statisticians will use their influence with policy officials and ministers to ensure the right statistics are used to inform decisions. This leadership needs to be displayed publicly too, but the ability to do this will depend on the legislative framework in which the NSI works. In the UK, the NSI reports to Parliament, and that gives it a safeguard and the ability to criticise ministers who transgress the code of practice or make false statements about statistics. The Office for Statistics Regulation in the UK argues that statistical leadership is not just for senior statisticians, but that governments too must show statistical leadership, quote, from the most junior analysts producing statistics to the most senior ministers quoting statistics in parliaments and the media. They highlight the role of governments in supporting a culture where statisticians can show leadership and can support collaboration, innovation, and effective communication. Statistics offices and other departments that produce statistics need to demonstrate leadership in how they produce statistics and in how they use them. Effective leadership develops confidence in the decisions these organizations take. The OSR review found that institutional structure has an impact on how statisticians and statistics are used. In other words, the extent to which a national statistical system is centralized. Now, the question of the centralization of statistical systems is an issue which many international organizations and national statistics offices have considered. So I just want to spend a minute or so on that. If we take the next slide, please. The National Statistical System is the collection of all the government agencies and departments that together produce what are accepted as official statistics for government and public use. At the centre, there is a National Statistical Institute, an NSI, which is recognised by the United Nations. The centralisation question is about how much of official statistics should be produced in the NSI, and what are the mechanisms for ensuring coordination and quality in a decentralised system. Traditionally, official statistics come from three sources: censuses, surveys, and administrative data, the latter being the data from administrative systems operated by government. These latter systems might be tax systems, immigration or border control systems, or hospital admission systems. Clearly, these systems are operated by separate government departments, and they often produce statistics as a byproduct, while censuses and surveys will usually be undertaken by the NSI. But more recently, access has become possible to a fourth area of statistics, private sector data or big data, such as mobile phone calls and locations, internet purchases and prices. And obviously these can be collected and analysed either by the NSI or by government departments. In a decentralised system, statisticians in departments work much more closely with policy customers, and so will be better able to produce statistics that are relevant to the questions of the day. However, statistical units in government departments tend to be quite small. Methodological advice and advice on standards, classifications, and best practice will be focused in the NSI. So it's an important leadership role of the NSI to ensure that best practice is followed by all the statistical units within a decentralized system. This will be done by the development of policies, training, and recruitment standards across the national statistical system. Organizational culture will also be important, both across the system and across government. So could I have the next slide, please? I want to turn now to leadership within statistical organizations and statistical offices in particular. If we consider the top level positions in National Statistical Institutes, NSIs, we notice that many of them, maybe even most of them, are not led by statisticians, or not led by statisticians who've had a career within the NSI. So why is this, and does it matter? NSIs are government departments, and the rules and practices for filling the top jobs in government, generally called director generals or chief executives, are governed by government-wide public service procedures. Often, director generals are rotated between agencies, and a posting in the NSI might be seen as a useful step in a senior public servant's career. So it's not unusual to see heads of NSIs, particularly in Europe, who were previously heads of finance, IT, or some other related discipline. In some countries, these top positions are filled through open competitions. But when that's the case, statisticians are not always seen as having the leadership qualities needed for the top job, and they don't always come through and get it. Does this matter? Well, we need to remember that NSIs are complex organizations, managing complex statistical systems, publishing a wide range of statistical products to demanding timetables through some of the most complex web systems around. There are ethical standards, international obligations, and best practice to take account of. A statistician leading a statistical organization will have credibility both internally and with stakeholders. There is enormous benefit in the leader having relevant experience of working in this environment and being comfortable in making the complex decisions which have significant implications for government. Having a statistician as the Director General enables them to act as the government's chief statistical advisor. This role can be important at times when critical decisions dependent on data are being taken, such as during the COVID pandemic. A statistician, in frequent discussion with heads of other government departments, government ministers, and prime ministers, will be able to respond quickly to questions dependent on data analysis, will earn the respect of policy colleagues, and be able to advance the influence of statistics on decision making. This leadership role is also key in presenting statistics. As I've said, statisticians are more trusted than politicians to present facts. We have a duty to ensure that a balanced picture of public issues, such as the impact of the pandemic, is presented using the best possible data. Of course, top leaders in statistical offices without a statistical background are likely to have important relevant experience, perhaps as a user of statistics, and will certainly have experience of government which will bring advantage to the agency. They will already be part of the network of government decision makers and will have the necessary leadership skills. If the Director General and their immediate team do not have a statistical background, they will need to rely on advice. All leaders need to do this, of course, and none can have first-hand experience of all the situations they will need to face. But it's difficult for a non-statistician to be able to evaluate statistical advice and to hold statistical staff to account. They will need to rely on the assessments of their chief methodologist and other senior statisticians, which may conflict. Also, a leader who is a statistician will be a good role model for more junior statistical staff and more likely to ensure a pipeline of future talent. So a statistical organization is best led by a statistician, but the statistician needs to be a good leader. The next slide, please. So is statistical leadership only an issue for the top of the organization? Well, I would argue that leadership qualities are important at all levels. Indeed, developing statistical leadership skills throughout the organization is key to establishing the talent pipeline that I've referred to, and ensuring future leadership comes from within the organization. Key to ensuring future leaders are statisticians. Some of the key leadership skills that I've described, communications, negotiation, and developing empathy, are about the relationship with stakeholders staff, customers, and budget holders. And everyone within an organization needs to work in teams with colleagues and with managers. So leadership skills are important at all levels. One of my former colleagues, Joy Dobbs, formerly of the ONS, spoke at this year's Royal Statistical Society conference about the extraordinary flowering of women leaders from the UK Social Survey in the 1970s and 80s, which led to two of them, Karen Dunnell and Jill Matheson, later becoming national statisticians. In discussion, she said she thought this was due to the wide range of skills the Social Survey unit had developed as a result of the need for it to compete with the private sector for work. Skills that included negotiation and customer relationship building, as well as project management and operational skills. These softer skills helped develop top leaders. So it's important to have leadership at all levels, but clearly an organization can't have dozens of people developing independent visions for their areas of work and all pulling in different directions. Everyone has to work within the strategic framework and towards the organization's vision and goals. But given the natural capabilities of statisticians and the pride they take in their own area of expertise, there is much to be said for allowing flexibility within the overall vision to encourage innovation. Clear messaging to staff, especially senior staff, about the role, goals, and values of an organization helps them to make decisions and empowers them to take risks in a dynamic environment in line with an agreed direction. This enhances job satisfaction and leads to a healthy, innovative organization. To be effective, statisticians need to show statistical leadership in their areas of expertise. This leadership extends outside the organization to the users, with whom there must be strong engagement, and also inside the organization to partners with specialist expertise, ensuring that best practice approaches are being used across the agency, and to areas who produce any source data that they use. Developing statistical leadership at all levels helps secure the talent pipeline for future top leadership positions. So could I have the next slide, please? And these bullets are one by one, so there's about 6 of them. Yes, just do the first one. Oh, and the second one. So what do we mean by statistical leadership at all levels? And there's several points here. The first one, we mean statisticians using their understanding of their statistical product and its quality attributes to engage strongly with users on the best possible uses. That is, understanding how their product is used and advising users on which uses are appropriate given their knowledge of the quality of their product. And the next bullet, statisticians developing with colleagues clear goals for the part of the organization they manage, consistent with their role and the office's goals and values. So if you know where the organization is heading, you can think about the contribution your work area can make to it. The next one, developing and delivering a clear direction for their product to meet perceived needs, having a development plan to meet future uses. The next one, helping colleagues to deliver this vision by empowering them, helping them overcome obstacles and take managed risks. Supporting colleagues is a major part of leadership. And the next one, collaborating with colleagues to ensure the product remains relevant in a changing world. Collaboration between data collection, methodology, the subject matter, and publication. And the last one, contributing to corporate initiatives and infrastructure and helping the development of best practice approaches, using the learning you are gaining to help the organization as a whole. So statisticians need to develop their customers into what I would call intelligent customers. Instead of reacting to customer requests, they need to understand the problem that their customer is trying to solve and how these can best be addressed. The question the customer is asking might not be the right one. By educating their customers into what the possibilities might be, they can develop customer intelligence so that the customer and the statisticians share a common understanding of the issue and the best way to solve it. Could we have the next slide, please? So I've talked about the importance of statisticians demonstrating leadership, But do statisticians naturally make good leaders? And I'm going to make a few generalizations here, which I hope won't upset people in order to make my point. There is some evidence that professionals generally struggle in leadership roles, and often they do not seek them. Statisticians often feel that a promotion will take them further away from the job that they love and leave them in a managerial job with little statistical content. At the same time, they may put little value on acquiring leadership skills. But statisticians have some natural leadership advantages. They're able to process large amounts of information and have well-developed problem-solving and critical thinking abilities. These are important leadership qualities. Similarly, statisticians usually have a well-developed sense of integrity, which is important for leadership. Statisticians tend to enjoy solving complex problems, but this can involve an excessive involvement in detail rather than taking a more strategic view. Also, they sometimes may have a view that the analysis of a problem shows an inevitably right answer, and they can be unsympathetic to those who do not follow the logic or don't agree with it. Their work experience may not help them to develop the strong communications and negotiation skills that leaders need. Expertise within a specialist area, whether it's national accounts, demography, or environmental statistics, brings recognition among your peers with papers applauded in conferences and in journals. And this can be a very rewarding aspect of a statistician's work. But by focusing on being expert in and being very loyal to their own work area, statisticians can lack a broader organizational focus. They can fail to, what we say as, they can fail to see the wood for the trees, and as a result, may not make the contribution to the organizational goals that they might. Leaders need to be comfortable with uncertainty, take calculated risks, and be prepared to fail. Statisticians are certainly experts in uncertainty, but they can be more comfortable when decisions flow from analysis, and they can be slow to take decisions. Statisticians have a good understanding of risk, but can often be thought to be overcautious, arguing why things should not happen, while other professions take a more positive or flexible approach. And this can lead to statistical advice being sidelined. Good statistical leadership is about having good emotional intelligence. It's about having a good understanding of yourself and of what you do well, what comes naturally, and what you have to work on. For most statisticians in government, it's about connecting with customers. For top-level management, it may be about listening and negotiating. Next slide, please. So is it that statisticians aren't born with the necessary leadership skills, or that they do not develop them? Well, it may be that statistics attracts certain types of personality, what we might call backroom people, but also maybe the practice of the profession does not naturally develop leadership skills. In order to become leaders, statisticians need to see how they can contribute to their organization's higher goals. They need to develop self-awareness, understand their own leadership style and how they might need to change. They need to develop to demonstrate good listening skills and demonstrate empathy. They need to be pragmatic, addressing and anticipating the needs of decision makers while retaining their professional integrity. Leading change is an important leadership role, and emotional intelligence is needed to understand why colleagues might feel uncomfortable about how change impacts on them. Statisticians have a unique perspective on problems. They have insights based on their skills and experience of analyzing data, and are in a good position to use these insights to add value. Adding the broader leadership skills that I've discussed to this skill set can turn them into powerful leaders. So next slide, please. So is this just about official statistics? Well, that is my background and the perspective I've given you, but it's not entirely. Looking beyond the public sector, we can see why it's important that statisticians develop their role as leaders in all areas where they work. In the last 30 years, statisticians have lost their monopoly as data analysts and interpreters. The age of computers has brought vast computing power, large data sets, and ready-to-use analytical software onto the desktops of anyone with the will to use them. Statisticians have needed to adapt and develop their role to continue to add value. They have needed to move from an advisory role with often little stake in the outcome to a more proactive value-added role, knowing how and where to apply statistical tools, rather than being the sole expert in their application. I found an article by Eric Gibson from a couple of years ago, and he notes the importance of data in virtually every research discipline and the high demand for analytical skills. He makes the point that because we often see ourselves as what he calls, quote, stewards of sound thinking for good decision making, which I've already discussed, others often just see us as number crunchers. Statisticians often work in multidisciplinary teams, whether they work in government departments or in research units in an academic or business environment. They might be working alongside economists, clinicians, psychologists, or other disciplines. There will often be no organizational hierarchy, but key decisions often need to be made, for example, on the use of the best available data, the research design to be adopted, and the best form of analysis to be used. Often the statistician will not have the final say in these decisions, so using their leadership skills to influence their colleagues is critical. They will need to be prepared to speak up and will need to develop listening, communication, and networking skills, all part of the armory of soft skills that leaders need, and the ability to develop their thoughts into clear proposals that others can understand and support. Statistical leadership is important, regardless of the statistician's perceived place in the team. So Dr. Gibson offers some words of advice for statisticians in these circumstances. To understand the expertise of the other team members, to use simplicity and not get lost in the detail, to avoid equivocation, make a clear proposal, and to guard against our natural instinct to reject other people's ideas. So statistical leadership, I think, is an issue for the whole profession. So next slide, please. And again, this one will build point by point, my apologies. Let me summarize the key messages from this talk so far before concluding in a few minutes on some ideas of how we can grow statistical leadership. So firstly, I've argued that the current pandemic has highlighted the importance of statistical leadership and has shown how statisticians have risen to the challenges we've faced. The next bullet, I've shown how this has presented an opportunity for statisticians to advance the profession and the place of statistics in public policy. The next bullet, I've set out what I mean by statistical leadership and how it differs from management. Next bullet, I've shown that NSIs need to show statistical leadership within the national statistical system and in public policy. The next bullet, I've discussed the question of leadership within a statistical organization. And next bullet, I've shown how leadership is an issue for statisticians at all levels of an organization. Next bullet, I've discussed whether statisticians naturally make good leaders and why they don't always develop the necessary leadership skills. And last bullet, I've explained that this can be an issue in the academic world as well as for NSIs. And now I want to turn to the question of what we do about this. So next slide, please. It's important to realize that although statisticians may not naturally exhibit leadership skills and the nature of their work rather discourages their flowering, people do change, and it's possible to develop statistical leaders. Statistical leadership can be learnt. The key is a good self-awareness and a knowledge of the other half of the glass that needs to be developed. Firstly, it requires the development of the professional skills needed to be a statistician. These we generally learn at university, but if we work in an applied environment, such as in government or business, we need opportunities to update and extend these skills. In government agencies, this highlights the role of the methodology division in developing internal courses and workshops, opportunities for statisticians to share knowledge and develop new skills. I would also highlight the importance of statistical conferences, such as this one, in developing learning. And I would also stress the role of the International Statistical Institute, of course, which promotes regional conferences, and also its flagship World Statistics Congress, the largest gathering of statisticians worldwide, next one scheduled to meet in Ottawa, Canada in July 2023, and I hope to meet many of you there. But statistics is a profession which supports key values. You don't necessarily learn these as a student at university. An understanding and ownership of values comes through clear policy statements, discussion, and consistent examples in the workplace. There might be a written down code of practice. Junior statisticians will come to understand their importance through discussion with their seniors. And as young statisticians become involved in specific cases where difficult decisions sometimes need to be made, the importance of these values hopefully will become clear. So next slide, please. It's an important role of senior statisticians to be good role models, recognizing the leadership skills in junior staff and ensuring these skills are developed, as we talk now about the leadership part of statistical leadership. And I have to say, in my early days as a statistician, none of my managers inspired me in this way. I hope none of them are here today. I don't think that in the UK in the 1970s or 80s, senior statisticians saw development of their staff as their priority. The first boss to help me develop such skills as I had was in fact an economist. Young statisticians do watch how their senior leaders behave and do draw lessons from themselves. Leadership requirements need to be written into job descriptions and training plans. Appraisal and giving feedback is an important role for managers, together with identifying statisticians with leadership potential. What I think was key for me and many others at the ONS at the time was a leadership and management program introduced in the 1990s, which included psychometric testing, studying working preferences, looking at leadership types, and so on, where many of us began to see the leadership deficit that we had, i.e., where we needed to improve. It exposed capable staff to new situations and complex problem-solving experiences. It was followed by proactive job moves and personal coaching to build the competencies required. I was fortunate to be able to join the Australian Bureau of Statistics in 2002 for 6 months, where I was exposed to different leadership styles and, I would have to say, a different culture. All of this can be expensive, but the results can be impressive. In the ONS, it produced a range of top statistical leaders, which meant that after having had 3 external national statisticians in a row, i.e. not appointed from within the ONS, we had 3 internally appointed national statisticians from 2005 to 2019. Well, I hope my contribution has given you something to consider. Next slide, please. Thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to your conference, and I look forward to your questions. Thanks very much. And thank you very much for operating the slides for me. My apologies that I wasn't able to do it properly.
Stefan, thank you very much. It was really a pleasure to listen to your talk. And I'd like to thank João for passing by the slides. It was a great talk. Yes, I will soon go to the comments in YouTube. But to start, I would like to ask a question myself. What suggestions would you give to younger statisticians to reach that are interested or potentially interested in pursuing a leadership role, either in a national or international society or government body?
I would suggest several things. Firstly, take up the training opportunities that are available to you, and obviously that will differ depending where you're working, but not just the statistical training, but also management and leadership training, if that's available. I would also say find within your organization a senior statistician who you respect in terms of their leadership style, and try to persuade them to become your mentor or your coach, and to give you feedback on your performance. It might not be your manager, it might be somebody else. I think those are two steps which you could sort of take more immediately. One other thing which has just occurred to me, don't be afraid of doing a different job. It's very easy. I mean, my background was as an economic statistician, and the first 4 or 5 jobs I did were all within that kind of framework. And then I was offered a job which covered social surveys as well. And I was quite concerned about that because it was outside my comfort zone, if you like, outside my expertise. But actually, it was incredibly rewarding, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the commonality of survey methodology and so on. So don't be afraid to take risks in your career. If somebody suggests, maybe you should apply for this job, and if it looks to be a little bit outside what you've done in the past, well, give it a go and see what you can do. Because by doing something different, you actually extend your range of skills, and that's what you need to do.
Yes, thank you very much. I will share some comments. Most of them are thank you comments. I have a comment from Denise. She is thanking you for the discussion on leadership versus management. I also have a comment from Dr. Gandia saying thank you. I have a comment here from Nigel. He says that supporting colleagues is one of the main part of statistical leadership, and he said he loved that, and in the sequence Denise reinforced that support to that phrase. It is indeed, I also agree with that. This is a very important thing, because I think many times people are not looking for others. Actually, it made me remember a comment from someone that I met that it says, if you want to be a leader, you should you should congratulate people that do things right, to give the stage to other people, and this is really something very true, because sometimes you have some people that take the stage all by themselves, and this is maybe not the best kind of leadership. So maybe you can comment a little bit on that.
I think that's absolutely right. Some leaders, I think that all they have to do is stand up on a platform and deliver a vision, and then they walk away and it just happens. Getting a vision implemented means getting people to buy in. As I said before, you can't be a leader unless you have followers. So they have to understand how they fit in. And very often that has to be a lot of one-to-one discussions or discussions in small groups. And as a leader, as the head of an organization, I used to give as much time as I could to talking with different business areas to see whether they understand the direction we're going in and what the problems are. And very often they will come up with quite sensible and good barriers as to what the problems are. And then, of course, you can go away and think about, well, what do we do about this? How do we work it through? So it's very important, I think. And it's very often under recognized. I think that's right.
Yes, indeed. I have another comment from Denise. She says, it's about help to solve problems instead of looking whose mistake led to the problem, plus also support colleagues' development.
Absolutely. Hi, Denise. It's nice. I can't see you, but it's nice to know that you're there. I've worked with Denise over the years in the past. I've always seen problems as the biggest way of improvement, as it were. And when I was Director General at ONS, we had several problems. We had issues with the website going wrong and so on and things like that. And it's important to get to the core reason why the problem happened. And sometimes the core reason is something which is kind of endemic, which is built into the way things are done. I always said to people, look, okay, you do something and it goes wrong, and well, never mind. But if you do it again and it goes wrong, well, then people will worry that there's something wrong in your area. But I said, if it goes wrong over there in somebody else's area and they do the same thing, then it's down to me, because I haven't looked to see what the root cause was, and I haven't resolved it across the organization. So people need to see that if they have problems and something goes wrong, it's not really down to them. It's something that needs to be fixed. Oh, thanks.
Yes,
Thanks, Denise.
There is also acknowledge your leadership. I also have some thank you comments. One from João saying great talk. Vinod also say good presentation, and that it was educative and made to realize the significance of statistics. And then Vinod continues and makes a question. But what would be the appropriate strategy to popularize the science of statistics? Because if I can give you some context, Stephen, yesterday we had a roundtable where Dennis was also part of that. We were discussing the future of statistical education. And one of the discussers in that roundtable said that most people, at least here in Brazil, most people in the secondary school are not even aware that it exists. There exists BSc degrees in statistics, and from my experience, even students at university some of them are not aware that a degree in statistics exists. So I think that's more or less connect with Vinod's question, and if you can comment a little bit on that.
I think we need to make the connection with what is going on around us, and we're not very good at doing that. I mean, in the UK, I don't know what it's been like in other countries, but in the UK, and it's not so much now, but certainly in the first year of the pandemic, every evening on the television news started by showing some charts of infection rates, hospitalizations and deaths and so on. The pandemic was the first news, and the way they presented it was using statistics. And, the Prime Minister would have a news conference every day when he would talk about, the latest figures and these and this and this and this. And it's been a huge showcase, I think, for statisticians because, our data has been needed and has been used. The newspapers have been full of charts and so on, showing all these things. But what people don't realize, and it's for us as a profession to try to kind of do this, I think, is that this is statistics. They don't realize that this, when you talk about statistics, they think of very dry things. They don't think of these very real things that are happening in our countries. So in some way, when we're talking to students about, well, what are you thinking of doing and what are you going to study at university or whatever, we need to remind them about the reality of statistics in terms of everyday life and try and make it more real for them. I mean, not only that, but when you think of the issues around big data and, the way in which we now have data on practically every movement of any person. I was in the car with my daughter about 6 months ago, and I said, look, can you tell us why the traffic ahead is blocked? And how far? So she looked on her phone on Google Maps and she said, it's only a half a mile. And then she said, I wonder how they know that. And I said, because you've got your phone switched on and everybody's got their phone switched on. That's what it's all about. So I think you have to try to kind of make these things real. That's the thing.
Yes, thank you very much, Stefan. We are reaching to the end. I would just like to thank you very much for your great talk, for sharing your time and knowledge with us. It was really a pleasure to having you here with us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paolo. It's been great and nice to talk to you all.
Yes, thank you. We'll
a suspiro fazer amor. Tô com saudade de você na varanda em noite quente, e o arrepio frio que dá na gente, truque do desejo. Guardo na boca o gosto do beijo. Eu sinto a falta de você, me sinto só. E aí, será que você volta? Toda minha volta é triste. E aí, o amor pode acontecer de novo pra você. Palpite. E aí, será que você volta? Toda minha volta é triste. E aí, o amor pode acontecer de novo pra você. Palpite. Tô com saudade de você, do nosso banho de chuva, do calor da minha pele, da língua tua lá. Tô com saudade de você, censurando o meu vestido, da jura de amor ao pé do ouvido, truque do desejo. Guardo na boca o gosto do beijo. Eu sinto a falta de você, me sinto só. E aí, será que você volta? Toda minha volta é triste. E aí, o amor pode acontecer de novo pra você. Palpite. E aí, será que você volta? Toda minha volta é triste. E aí, o amor pode acontecer de novo pra você. Palpite.
Hi everyone, hi again. This is our last session. Of course, in the afternoon we still have 2 short courses, but this will be the closing session of the conference. We have just listened to a song by Vanessa Rangel. The song is dated from 1997, and it was beautifully interpreted by the singer Raiza Soares, accompanied by Leandro Oliveira on guitar. The name of this song is Palpite, which means something like a hunch or a feeling, and it is about a hunch or a feeling for love to be present in people and in people's hearts. Well, we are ending to a close. We are reaching a close. Everything that is good and pleasant ends quickly, and this is also the case for the 3rd conference on statistics and data science. We do hope that you have enjoyed this conference as much as we did. We are now going to announce the winners for the Best Poster Award on Statistics and Data Science. To help us with the grading and evaluating the posters that applied for the best poster, our evaluation committee was formed by 3 colleagues that were part of the scientific program committee: Ejaz Ahmed from Canada, Paula Brito from Portugal, and Rosario Lombardo from Italy. So they were our evaluation committee. I would like to thank them for their help and contribution. Also, I would like to thank the candidates that submitted the posters for consideration. All the submitted posters were very good and in terms of scientific content. And the scores given by the members of the evaluation committee were very similar. We decided to award 2 posters, and the awardees are, I will ask João to share the certificate. The 2nd place for the Best Poster Award on Statistics and Data Science was awarded to the paper entitled A Novel Observation-Driven Model for the Conditional Median of Double Bound Time Series. It was authored by Renata Rojas Guerra and Fernando Peña Ramirez. Congratulations to the authors. We will be sending the certificate by email. And the first place was awarded to the paper entitled Power Logistic Regression for Modeling Bounded Data, which was authored by Francisco Felipe Queiroz and Silvia Lopes de Paula Ferrari. Congratulations to Francisco and Silvia for this award. We will also be sending the certificate to you. So congratulations to both winners on the behalf of the local organizing committee and of the scientific program committee. Now it gives me a great pleasure to introduce you our team. I would like to introduce all the people that you were seeing during these 3 days, and also the people that you did not see. So I will start by Lisandra. You have seen Lisandra. Lisandra, she is the chair of the local organizing committee. She did a marvelous work in organizing everything. So Lisandra she's a colleague in my department of statistics, but she's also a very good friend. So it is really a pleasure always to work with Lisandra. So it was Lisandra was leading all the local efforts. I'd like to introduce also João. Most of you saw João in the openings. João was doing a little. He's one of our students. He was doing a little bit of everything. So he was our master of ceremonies. He was helping in the background with some technical stuff, and he was also presenting some of the speakers. So João did a great contribution for us as well. Next, I'd like to introduce you Jalmar. Jalmar is also a colleague in our Department of Statistics and also a very good friend. And Jalmar was doing a lot of work in the background, in particular with the website. He did a great job with that as well. Then I have Rodrigo. Rodrigo is also a colleague in our Department of Statistics. It is always a pleasure to work with Rodrigo as well. Rodrigo did a lot of work, and he will be the responsible for sending all the certificates. So if you don't get any certificate, your certificate is his fault. I also have here Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a student of ours. Elizabeth, I met Elizabeth in 2015, I think, and since then, this is the 4th conference that she helps organizing. So when I have some work to be done without payment, I call Elizabeth. That's what conference are. I also have here Gabriel. Gabriel is a student from computer sciences, and he's been helping us also in the background with several activities. And the same for Nigel. Nigel is a student in our master program, and he has been helping us with some discussions and some help in the background. Last but not least, it was on purpose that I left Jaira to the end. Jaira is the mastermind before all technical stuff. So everything was possible because of Jaira. Jaira is our technical guy. He organized everything on YouTube, everything on StreamYard. So he did a great job in organizing all the technical stuff. So, and this is the team that we had here. I would like to thank all of them on behalf of all of you, because without them it would not be possible to bring this conference to you. So we are really I'm really thankful to all of them, because we are asking people to work without any proper payment. So this is the most that we can do is to thank everyone. I now would like to share some numbers of this conference. We had a little bit more than 1,400 registrations. our website was visited a little bit more than 6,300 times from people from 89 different countries, so we could reach a quite global public. On YouTube, we only have statistics from the first 2 days at this moment. So in these first 2 days, we had almost 5,000 visualizations for a total of more than 1,200 hours that were watched. So in the first 2 days, we had 1,200 hours watched by all people. The opening ceremony and the first keynote speaker, Ron Wasserstein, had more than 2,400 visualizations until now. So those are great numbers that, of course, we could not reach if this was in person. So there are some advantages of having it online, but of course, it is a bit sad to take pictures as print screens. That's not something that we want to do in the future. We are going to share with you a satisfaction survey for you to share your opinion. Your opinion is really important for us, so that we can understand what we did well, what we did wrong, and so that we can improve in the future. And now I'd like to stop talking and pass the word to Lisandra. She's the chair of the local organizing committee, and she will say some words.
Hi, everyone. On the behalf of the local organizing committee, I would like to express a bunch of thanks to all keynote speakers for having accepted our invitation to participate in this event. They were amazing and for sure have left an indelible mark on each one. I also wish to thank all of you who have participated in this conference. It was prepared with a great care for you. It has been an honor to be with you these 3 days. I would like to thank for my team by excellent job. And I expect to see all of you in CSDS 2022.
Thank you, Lisandra. Yes, let's hope that all of you can come to Salvador. We are now going to show you one last song so that you make sure that you don't miss the opportunity to visit us next year in Salvador in 2022. This next song that we are going to show you, it was written by the Brazilian composer Zé Cabaleiro, and it is called Telegrama. This song talks about a person who received a telegram from someone, and the person is not sure if the telegram is coming from Aracaju or from Bahia or even from Alabama. But this person was so happy that discovers that love brought hope and that the world has not ended. I think it is a very timely song to have at this moment and a good message because of the current state of the world at this moment. We indeed need hope and love. The song is sung by Raíza Soares and has Leandro Oliveira on the guitar.
Eu tava triste, tristinho, mas sem graça que a top model magrela na passarela. Eu tava só, sozinho, mais solitário que um paulistano, que um canastrão na hora que cai o pano. Tava mais pobre que banda de rock, que um palhaço do circo Vostok. Mas ontem eu recebi um telegrama. Era você de Aracaju ou do Alabama, dizendo: nego, sinta-se feliz, porque no mundo porta do vizinho e desejar bom dia, de beijar o português da padaria. Hoje eu acordei com uma vontade danada de mandar flores ao delegado, de bater na porta do vizinho e desejar bom dia, de beijar o português da padaria. Mama, oh mama, oh mama, ah, quero ser seu, quero ser seu, quero ser seu, quero ser seu papá. Oh mama, ah, quero ser seu, quero ser seu, quero ser seu, quero ser seu papá. Eu tava triste, tristinho, mas sem graça que a top moda magrela na passarela. Eu tava só, sozinho, mais solitário que um paulistano, que um vilão de filme mexicano. Tava mais bom que banda de rock, que um palhaço do circo Vostok. Mas ontem eu recebi um telegrama, era você do Aracaju ou do Alabama, dizendo: nego, sinta-se feliz, porque no mundo tem alguém que diz que tanto te ama, que muito te ama, que muito te ama, que muito tanto te ama. Por isso hoje eu acordei com uma vontade danada de mandar flores ao delegado, de bater na porta do vizinho e desejar bom dia, de beijar o português da padaria. Hoje eu acordei com uma vontade danada de mandar flores ao delegado, de bater na porta do vizinho e desejar bom dia, de beijar o português da padaria. Mama, oh mama, oh mama, ah, quero ser seu, quero ser seu, quero ser seu papá. Mama, oh mama, oh mama, ah, quero ser seu, quero ser seu, quero ser seu papá. Eu tava triste, tristinho.
See you in 2022. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Thank you.
Lugares são como pessoas. Tem aqueles que apenas passam por nossa vida e aqueles que deixam a sua marca. Tem aqueles sem graça e aqueles instigantes. Lugares são como pessoas. Tem lugar que tem um incrível poder de dar um clique na nossa alma. E quando a gente vê, já entrou no nosso coração e ele está ali, instalado. Salvador é assim. Uma festa para os sentidos. O gosto do dendê fica na boca, quase como uma tatuagem no paladar. O cheiro do mar não se contenta em ser sentido. O sal gruda no corpo e quer se misturar com o nosso suor. As imagens são tão carregadas de sentido que parecem ter sempre algo novo para lhe mostrar, mesmo que você já tenha visto dezenas de vezes. E a batida? Será que é por acaso que tem o mesmo nome daquilo que lá no peito faz a gente se sentir vivo? Uma cidade que é dividida em duas partes e ligada por um elevador não nasceu mesmo para ser convencional. Aqui, o palco anda. E o mais impressionante, o povo sai andando atrás. Aqui o banho pode ser de mar, mas se preferir, pode ser de pipoca também. É o coração da África, o berço do Brasil e tem o sorriso que é do tamanho do mundo. Só quem nasceu de uma mistura pode juntar tão bem coisas tão diferentes. Salvador tem um santo do candomblé para cada dia da semana e uma igreja para cada dia do ano. Salvador é superlativa, generosa, bem-humorada e de bem com a vida. Não dá para ser o mesmo depois de conhecê-la. Não dá para ser igual depois de sentir suas sensações. Não dá para ser igual depois de perceber suas singularidades. Não dá para ser igual depois de sentir seus cheiros, ouvir seus sons, provar seus sabores. Não dá para ser igual depois de ouvir suas histórias. Não dá para ser igual depois de conhecer um lugar tão surpreendentemente diferente. Salvador, você sente que é diferente.